Are you serious?
So hello, it's Marcus Bronzy here from How to Kill an Hour, and we're going to take a little deflection from our usual course of banter-packed showage with another presenter. I've got a special guest in here today. I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listeners, please.
Hi, my name is Adam Simmons. I'm the VP of Content and Marketing at Level Up Media, which is a esports and gaming video platform.
Awesome, and I do want to talk about the esports and gaming video platform, but I want to know a little bit more about the man Adam himself. Because you've got quite an interesting history in esports, but before that, there's another sporting story, and I'd love to hear about that.
So esports has always been a passion of mine. I've been a big gamer all my life. Before I went kind of full-time with that, I also had a traditional sporting career as well. Yeah. So I've competed at a national level in wheelchair basketball, but also more recently, I was on the Paralympic GB kayaking squad, and I've competed at world championships there. So I've seen the professional sports side of things in traditional sports and competed at a high level there, and also the esports side of things and how those two are coming together and how they differ.
Okay. With the sports side of things, because you've played a couple of professional sports like professional basketball for Great Britain and also kayaking, is there a difference in the type of competitiveness? Because I feel like some sports are more gentlemanly than others. I feel like basketball's a bit like hands in a circle, and kayaking's a bit like may the best man win. Is there a difference in competition?
I think the difference is depending on what kind of sport it is. So something like basketball, it's even though it's a non-contact sport, you're still directly competing against each other. You're there, you're fighting for the ball, you've got the offense, defense, and all that sort of stuff. In kayaking, it's almost like a time trial in a sense that even though you're racing other people, you're all in your same lane, you're all just going as fast as you can. Nothing anyone else can do can influence how you're going. And that's where you get the bit of a difference, because in basketball, in football, and anything like that, you have someone who's actively trying to stop you, or you're actively trying to stop someone else doing something. So you have that not aggressive, but you have that confrontational side of things. But in a sport like kayaking, you obviously just have a straight race. It's all down to you. Whoever's quickest wins. So it's a bit more, a bit more gentlemanly.
Yeah. I bet. And how did you transition from physical sports into a world of esports?
So originally, I was always into gaming. So myself, I've got a condition called brittle bones. Yeah. So I've always been involved in gaming. I've spent a lot of time in hospital as a kid sort of thing. So I spent hours playing games. It was really just a great opportunity. Gaming as a whole is an incredibly inclusive thing. I could play against my friends on Call of Duty, on FIFA and stuff like that, and it'd be a completely level playing field, whereas traditional sports, playing football on the playground, wasn't something I could do. So spent a lot of time doing that. I practiced quite a bit. When I had broken bones and stuff, I obviously had a bit more time to practice. So I got quite good at it. And then that combined with kind of traditional sports, it was a natural thing because I was competitive in gaming. I got involved in wheelchair basketball at quite a young age, really got involved with that, enjoyed it. I'm quite athletic and sporting anyway. And there's a lot of similarities between the two. So even though traditional sports was kind of my focus at first, I was doing kind of gaming and content creation around that on the side as they balance quite nicely. A lot of my sports training was during the day, a lot of gaming and esports, especially when you're doing content or you're live streaming and things like that. The audience is there in the evenings. So it was during the day, I was out on lakes kayaking. In the evening, I was producing and making content. So the schedules fitted quite nicely together. And then over time, I kind of transitioned more into the esports side as I was wrapping up my kind of sporting career, so to speak, doing more and more there. Started working for Level Up. I joined Level Up before they were even launched, so I joined about 6 months before we launched our first site, and I've really grown alongside the company with the team to get to where we are today. So it's quite a natural transition. I've also had the benefit of being able to see the esports industry as a whole grow, and it comes as a surprise to many people that esports, they look at it and go, this is this new thing, it's this new big thing. They forget that there's been competitive gaming since the dawn of time. There are big competitions of who could be the best at Donkey Kong and stuff, who could get the high scores in the arcade. More recently, if you go back into the 90s, in Korea especially, the game StarCraft was by many seen as kind of the birth of modern day esports. It's a big competitive scene and still is today. So a lot of those things that you see drive people in traditional sports, drive people in esports as well. They want to be the best. They want to compete. There's that competitive nature, and really the way that scene's growing is incredibly interesting because you can compare it in a lot of ways to how elite level sport has grown as well. If you go back and a couple of generations, Olympic level sport was very much you just train for as many hours as you can, you just keep doing it, and then you'll be the best at it. Whereas today, there's so much sports science involved, sports psychology, the holistic approach to lifestyle, all of these sort of things, which looking at when I was with the kayaking team, that was all part and parcel. In esports, that was still decades behind, whereas in just a couple of years, the big teams and everything have really caught up with that. You start having things like personal trainers, just to keep them all fit and healthy. You have more structured sessions, you have review sessions, you have coaches, you have team managers, you've got psychologists working with them, and it all makes sense because
I only thought that would be in like sports. Sorry to be ignorant, but actual psychologists are there saying, right, this is
so in esports now. The big teams are starting to bring that in, and it's because there's so many similarities. So to put in perspective, a couple of weeks ago, there was one of the biggest esports tournaments each year. It's called the International. It's for a game called Dota 2, and there was $20 million plus prize money on the line. The winning team, it's a 5+ player game, so you have 5 people on each team. Each member of the winning team took home just over $2 million. Each. And if you think these people are kind of in their late teens, early 20s, and they're about to play a game to potentially make themselves a millionaire. If you compare that to the psychological stress that traditional sports people have, when I was saying on the line of the World Championships kayaking, you have the same thoughts going through your head of sitting there going, what if I don't win? What if I mess up? What if I make a mistake? This could define not just this race, not just this competition, but it could have a knock-on effect for years, if not decades of my life.
Yeah.
And so these teenagers and playing in the International, playing in Dota 2, they're sitting there about to compete for millions of dollars. That's a lot of pressure to put on anyone. And so the psychology approach that you see in traditional sports is definitely coming into esports to help them deal with that.
Wow. The first thing that came to my head is because there's been a bit of scandal in the MMA at the moment about juicing. How long until cognitive enhancers, aka mind steroids, are going to start coming into the mix? That's a serious consideration.
It is. And it's something which is actually relatively in focus at the moment, especially at the bigger events, because just in the last few years, the prize monies on the line have absolutely skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So when we started Ding It, we launched in early 2015. We were initially a live platform, and we were running events every week for a couple of $1,000s. And that would get some of the best teams in the world playing every single week. And now you just couldn't even get tier 3 teams for that money because they're paying for $250,000, $500,000, $1 million prize pools on a regular basis. So that naturally leads just in sports. This is big money on the line now. And therefore, the performance enhancing medication is obviously something which is in the sphere of awareness. So the World Anti-Doping Association, I believe it was last year, got involved with ESL to help them at their events because it's not your traditional steroids. Having big biceps doesn't really help you that much playing League of Legends. But
big thumbs is good if you're playing a fighting game, I must say. Yeah, that'll work for you, yeah.
But things, basically cognitive enhancement, so ADHD medication and things like that, are potentially able to be abused. Now, it's not something that's too massive yet, but certainly something that the responsible parts of the industry are aware of, just in the same way as things like having psychologists for the team and for the players, having career coaches and those sort of things to make sure that the players are looked after. It's not only in terms of their financial or health at the time, but also to make sure the integrity of the sport is being kept in place. Okay,
I do want to talk about Ding It TV in a second, but if esports has got pretty much every element that people would say, regular sports, for want of a better set of words, has the same elements. And, as somebody who's performed on an Olympic level, Paralympic level, how do you feel about the conversation about esports being introduced into an Olympic?
So I think it's a really interesting one. And I think there's kind of two change of thought. On the first, there's a lot of similarities between professional gaming and many other sports. So yeah, you're not running 100 meters there, but there's still a physical element. There's muscle memory, there's focus, there's multitasking, attention span, strategy, which if you look at some sports that are in the Olympics, that already applies. Now, there's also the difficulty, though, from the structure of the Olympic cycle. So with traditional sports, and using kayaking as my example, you get a change made, and that change will be locked in pretty much for the entire 4 years until the next games. And then depending on the outcomes there, they might make little changes. So a really good example of those changes was the Beijing Olympics. In swimming, there were loads of world records because all the swimmers were wearing those fancy, basically magical swimsuit things that made them go super quick. They were then banned.
Skins.
Yeah, the dolphin skins and stuff like that. They were banned. Right. And so subsequently, for the next 4 years, people couldn't use those. They weren't banned previously, and then you had 4 years locked in where everyone was going the same way. In esports, a 4-year cycle would be very challenging. The main reason being because these games, they're not just a professional sport. The developers are actively increasing what's involved. They're actively patching it, making changes, additions. So in looking at a game like Counter-Strike or say League of Legends, you have changes made every couple of months. They add a new champion, they add a new rule, they tweak some numbers here and there to try and keep the game balanced. That isn't necessarily that beneficial in an Olympic cycle, because you could suddenly have people who are very good become not very good if they were focused on a certain discipline.
Right.
So it'd be like taking javelin, for example. The rules of throwing javelins changing every couple of months, that suddenly we're going to make it an extra meter longer or a kilogram heavier, half a gram lighter. All of these sort of rule changes, which in an Olympic structure of a 4-year cycle isn't necessarily that conducive. On the
how do we solve that problem?
So I'm not necessarily sure it's a problem that needs to be solved.
Okay.
Having esports involved in the Olympics, I think it's good that it's considered a sport in many ways, and it's getting a lot more mainstream attention and acceptance. But equally, not every sport is an Olympic event. And it doesn't necessarily need to be at the Olympics. There's plenty of sports that aren't included. So from my experience in kayaking, I actually competed in 2 disciplines. One was a kayak, which is where you have a paddle on both sides, or so you have a blade on each side of the paddle, use both arms, go for it. Mm-hmm. The other event I did was a boat called a VAR, which is a canoe with an outrigger on it, and you have basically one blade on the paddle and you paddle on one side. The VAR race wasn't an Olympic event. It was still done in canoeing at the World Championships and Europeans, but it wasn't part of the Olympic program.
Right.
It was still just as much of a sport. Personally, I found it way harder than kayaking.
Yeah.
It doesn't discredit that validity as a sporting event, but it doesn't necessarily have to be involved in the Olympics.
I might upset some Olympians though, because I feel like that we do need a refresh. When I'm watching the Olympics, there's certain sports which I feel like esports would eclipse in terms of excitement. I mean, for example, sorry to all my curlers that are listening right now, people sweeping ice and playing that game is not very exciting for me. I would put any esports over that, even if it's a game I particularly wasn't interested in. Just the excitement factor, I think that would bring a bigger audience, that would bring more viewers, that would bring a younger age group, being interested in the Olympics. Do you agree that there's certain games that would just bring excitement?
Yeah, and I think lots of esports are hugely exciting. The production values around them now, the commentators, the storylines, the teams, they're all building things that make you love sport. And I'm relatively young still, I like to hope, but if you look at the conversations I often have with, especially my grandparents, for example, they sit there and they're like, what's this video gaming thing? People actually watch other people play video games and they don't get it. But that's because they're simplifying it. If you simplify football, it's watching 22 men kick a ball around for 90 minutes.
Right.
If I explain it like that, that doesn't sound particularly exciting.
Yeah.
But obviously it is. Billions of people love it. There's all the storylines, the excitement, the anticipation, all of the stuff around it. And esports is exactly the same. And you get lots of people, and you show people who've never been engaged in gaming or particularly interested in it. And once they've watched a major event, they start getting it. They start getting involved. They hear the commentators, they hear the building. They might not completely understand it all. But when I watch judo at the Olympics, I still don't know the rules. But
I don't know what's going on. People are getting points all the time. They're like, great move. I'm like, okay. Thrown on the floor.
Sometimes I'm like, they've won, and then they're like, no, that didn't count.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that? That was illegal.
Yeah,
because they grabbed them on this part of the clothing instead of the other. So it's great, like, because you've kind of really brought home how and why esports is interesting. So how does Ding It TV fit into this? What is Ding It TV?
So Ding It TV is our flagship site at Level Up. So first and foremost, we're a technology company.
Right.
We develop some tech which is an end-to-end solution for video distribution. It's really not that interesting for probably a lot of people listening, but basically it's more efficient and works better than other systems. Additionally, we have some advertising tech to help monetize that audience. But fundamentally, when we launched, we looked at, okay, what's a really exciting market to get into? What kind of content can we deal with, what kind of audiences can we engage with that are rapidly growing in esports, fit the bill perfectly. So what we do is we work only in premium content. So that's stuff that every single bit of content that goes onto our platform is reviewed by a member of our team to make sure that it's entertaining, make sure that it's high quality, make sure the viewers are going to love it, and also importantly, making sure that it's brand safe for advertisers. And that's kind of our core. The other thing is we only work with on-demand content now. So we work specifically with short form, kind of 2-3 minute long clips that are the highlights and the best moments. And what that allows us to do is really access more of the wider gaming demographic rather than just the enthusiasts. So again, linking it to traditional sports, you've got the audience that will go live to a stadium to watch a game. You've got the people who will subscribe to satellite TV sports packages and watch all the games. You've got people who watch Match of the Day. That's kind of like your long form. And then you've got people who will just see the highlights from the end of the national news or on Facebook or something like that. We cater to that highlight audience, which is really big. They just want to get the best bits, see the best moments, get the exciting tap-in bits.
Okay, so you want the bangers of the goals, the headshots by snipers from 1,000 meters, that sort of stuff.
The best moments, the montages of kind of the pros doing incredible things, but also the funny moments, the fails, the times when things don't go quite right. And really we're catering to that. We're Dingit is really focused on kind of the enthusiast and competitive gaming audience, but we're also launching additional sites. So later in September, we're going to be launching The Gamer, which is catering more to your mainstream console gamers, the AAA titles, the kind of quick how-tos, the reviews, the guides, still short form, still premium. And then later in the year, we've got plans to launch a site called Go Gamer, which will be catering to mobile gaming and also family-friendly gaming.
Right. And
really the ethos there is, while there's a lot of buzz around esports, it is a segment of the overall gaming market. So depending on which report you see, it's kind of 300-400 million esports fans in the world. But there's 1.2 billion gamers in the world. And that includes everyone from your young relatives who are watching Minecraft videos all the way through to competitive people watching Counter-Strike games for thousands of dollars, but also all the way through to your mum who plays Farmville on Facebook.
Yeah. Mum, stop sending me those requests, please. I'm not playing that game, Mum.
There's so many of them as well, isn't there?
So there's so many secret farmers I didn't know about.
I know.
There's so many people on Facebook, and they're like out in the clubs, popping bottles, listening to music, and then on Sunday, Farmville request. I'm like, okay, cool.
The thing is, if being a big gamer, there's a lot of zombie games, so all these farmers better be learning real life skills in the event of the apocalypse, because we're going to need them.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, most definitely. So just to confirm, as me, I would go to Dingit TV if I wanted to see what was popping in the gaming world, and it's going to be guaranteed that what I see is content that is interesting and fun. Because while there's loads of places for me to get interesting and fun content on the internet, other websites, I am not guaranteed that everything I see is going to be sort of checked over to see if it's cool. Like, we've all done it, surfing on the internet, on YouTube, something's good there, that's a rubbish video. Because you've got the element where somebody's going through and saying, we're only going to put exciting content on there, you're pretty much guaranteed a buzz every video that you check out.
And it's the curation approach. So our library is very much about quality over quantity. Yeah. So if you look at other sites that service gaming, you've got things like Twitch TV that's predominantly about live streaming, and people stream for hours and hours. They'll watch it. You get that great community element, but they also have loads of streamers who only have 1 or 2 viewers, and so anyone can go live. It's very user generated, just like YouTube. YouTube, there's a really cool stat from last summer where they had 300 hours of video uploaded every minute. And if you just think of that, there's a huge amount of stuff there, which, no offense to people uploading those videos, probably not the highest quality. And that's only increasing because I look back to when I started in gaming and when I started doing content creation. If you wanted to put up a live stream at even like 720p resolution, you needed a beast of a desktop PC, you needed top of the line internet, and even then it would only just work. Nowadays, anyone with a smartphone can go live on Facebook. So the content creators and people who are able to make content is exploding. And that pyramid of quality, it's not getting bigger at the top. It's the barrier to entry is dropping. So you have lots of people who are putting up video content, which isn't for everyone. Prime example, going back to our lovely elderly relatives, they quite often like to live stream their dog walks.
Oh, man.
And I'm sure their dog's having a great time, but not many people tune into that.
I would not watch that. I would not watch that. I say a pyramid's a very interesting way of putting it. I've not thought of it like that. And you're saying the pyramid's getting bigger at the bottom. And I feel like websites like yours will help me kind of only watch the top of the pyramid if that's what I want. I mean, no offense. If you want to watch videos of dog walking, do your thing. But I'd rather watch the highlights of the world. And you mentioned there's the gamer TV. So that's going to be more AAA titles. You said console gaming, and then what's the app version? The app version?
Go Gamer is our plan for the third side, which will be later on in the year, and that's for your mobile games, but also family friendly. So the ethos there is it's very easy to bundle gaming and gamers just as one big group, people who like games. But in our mind, that's the same as kind of going, oh, there's people who like sports or people who like music.
Yeah,
then all the same. Not everyone who likes music likes rock, pop, rap. There's different genres. They listen to it for different reasons. Some people listen to it because they're down in the club. Some people want to relax while they're working. And we view it the very same with gamers. Someone who's watching a Minecraft creative Let's Play video is not necessarily the same person who's watching the final of a $250,000 Counter-Strike tournament. Not only because the content is different, the reasons for watching are different, and how that audience engages with the content is different. And so by having different destinations that cater to different groups, we hope to be more inclusive of the overall reasons people are watching. And a real prime example of that is with Go Gamer, when we're looking for it to be family friendly. Obviously, it doesn't take many clips on some video services to go from a very appropriate Minecraft video to a not so appropriate video for younger audiences. So it's really catering to what's there and making sure that they're finding stuff that's not only what they want to find, but it's suitable for those audiences. And then the other side to it is something that's been very apparent earlier in the year around brand safety for advertisers. So all of our content's ad funded. We only do pre-roll video ads against our content, but the main thing is really making sure that content's premium, not only for our viewers, but also for our advertising partners. Won't go into huge details, but as we all know, in a user-generated environment where anyone can upload anything, there's stories every week of videos that really shouldn't have been distributed far and wide, going out, and that can be everything from quite extremist content to very inappropriate content or very offensive content.
Yeah, people with massive audiences can just... I mean, let's be honest, PewDiePie got in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
He was very... I know he did swear a bit in that, but he's very user-friendly, you'd say. And then he just came out with some content that had the world's head spinning going, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? So that's very, very interesting. So what does that mean for me as a content creator if I'm working with Ding It TV? What does that mean for me in terms of advertising revenue?
So what we do, because we have the tech to distribute it very efficiently, but also the ad tech to monetize it efficiently. It's a premium environment, so we're working with fewer people. And what we do with content creators is we actually license the content. So one of the difficulties of being a content creator is if you're on a revenue share basis, there's loads of factors that are outside of your control. How much the ads sell for, how many ads fill, all of these sort of things. As a creator, you just want to make the best content. And so that's what we really look for, is who's making the best stuff. Let's give them a license fee to get that content onto our platform. And the other bits of monetizing it well and making sure that we're getting the value out of it that we know that content has. That's our job. It's not the creator's job. The creator's job is to be able to focus on making great stuff. Also, because it's a license fee, they have a regular, stable income. With a revenue share, 1 month you could get 100,000 views and make $100. The next month you could get 150,000 views but only make $80. From our side, on the business side, we know all the varying factors that could cause that to happen. But as a creator, it's very frustrating because you don't know how much money you're going to get. You don't know, there's so many things that are unknown to you.
It's Wild West out there, it really is.
Exactly. So by working with premium creators, working on a license basis with them, it gives them the stability to know that they have this revenue coming in. They can plan around it. They can reinvest into their content. And really our aim is to build a sustainable system and help build the entire system up and the entire industry up so that they're able to reinvest, make better content, and in turn engage and get more audience involved with a passion that we all have.
Okay. Would you say that would be your ideal sort of Ding It user then, or creator, content creator, somebody who ticks those boxes?
Yeah, so our main creators tend to be, they come into two boxes. So we have what we consider our premium partners. Right. So that's the professional esports teams, the tournaments, the leagues, professional creators, so the big channels and things like that. Then we also have what we call the contributor network. Now, what we have there is we run a weekly competition where the best gaming video submitted to us each week will win $200. And we've run that for over a year now. We've had hundreds of thousands of entries. And it's really just a way for people who maybe aren't a full-time creator, but to get some exposure, potentially win a good prize. And we also use a bit of an audition tool as a great way to find people who maybe have this great talent, but find it difficult to surface on other platforms where there's just such huge competition due to the amount of content on there.
Great stuff. And I feel like that would make a really good show, actually, like a highlight reel of the best bits. Have you what's your take on Ding It TV and Game TV and those channels? What do you feel about them doing actual live shows and moving forward in that direction? Because I know that you cover people that do big events, you work with people that do big events. What's the sort of plan with that? Do you think that's a possibility?
So when we originally launched, we were only live. Right. So that was the plan. We did live for quite a while, and we saw quite a few opportunities there, but there was also a lot of challenges. Live, we all know the dangers of working with animals, kids, or on live TV. So it's one of those things where there's unique challenges there. Also, from the monetization side, there's some unique challenges there. Yeah. And there's also in the gaming industry, especially Twitch TV, for example, a major player there. They do an incredible job, and they service their creators and their audiences in a very effective way. And we really took a look and said, okay, well, what are we offering beyond that? We do have premium only content, but actually we then launched highlights alongside live as a way just for people to catch up. And now, rather than the normal of just saying, let's take the live stream and just make it available on demand afterwards, we kind of took a step back and said, well, who would be watching these videos after it was live? If it was someone who wanted to watch the entire thing, they probably would have just watched the entire thing. So it's actually people who want to catch up. They just want to see the best moments. So we decided to launch it just as highlights. And then what we just saw was explosive growth. Right. The way we could promote it, the way we could get more audiences in, but also outside of the traditional audiences as well. We had people who were just casually involved in esports or were interested in it or wanted to catch up. They didn't want to watch 6 hours of a live event. They started coming in and we saw just massive growth there. And so obviously we invested into it a lot more. Our technology was working really well there. Our ad partners were getting a lot of success there as well. And it was about this time last year that we decided to completely cut out live and just focus on VOD. And the advantage that really gives us is that we're adding value. And that's something that's important to us as well. We want to help our creators, our partners, and our audiences to get something they can't get elsewhere. So somewhere like Twitch is live. All of our partners we work with live stream on Twitch. It's a way to engage with their viewers and they get a lot of benefit from it. They put long form content on YouTube. They get great discussions on it. It's a great way to have kind of your 20-30 minute videos. And what we looked to do was focus on that highlight reel. Those quick 2-3 minute clips which go out to a wider audience. They're bite sized, they're very digestible, and they have a very low barrier for people to get involved and really access it. And I look at it much in the same way as you have with photo sharing or something like that. There's multiple places that influencers and creators share and engage with their audience. There's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat. They don't pick one. Each platform has its own way of working and its own way to engage with your audience and its own benefits. The sort of things that even the biggest celebrities will share on Snapchat, it's a different type of photo or video than what they'll be sharing on Instagram. And that audience, yeah, there's some overlap, but there's also new audiences that will only engage with one or the other. Twitter's different to Facebook. And that's really where we wanted to sit. We wanted to be able to complement the other services that our creators and partners and viewers are using and give them a way to access new audiences and new demographics that they aren't doing so at the moment. Excellent. And you can check that all out at Dingit.tv, right? Yep. And the new website. The new website will be thegamer.tv. Thegamer.tv. That's launching by the end of September. All right. And there was a third one that you mentioned. Yeah. So GoGamer. GoGamer.tv as well. Okay. That'll be launching probably by the end of the year. Great stuff. And you're someone who's got great knowledge of this. So this is a great question to ask someone like yourself. Like, what do you think the future of esports holds in terms of not just I think the general consensus is it's going to get bigger, but in what direction, what sort of shape and form do you see over the next sort of 5 to 10 years? So just in the same way, the barrier to entry for content creators is dropping, the barrier to entry to esports is dropping. So going back to the early 90s in South Korea, where StarCraft was absolutely huge, people were still tuning in. They were mainly listening to podcasts of the event. They weren't live streams because no one's internet could handle watching that. So you've had a technology boom. Home consoles have exploded as well. I even look back to back to when I was in early school sort of thing. I played loads of games, and you'd have a couple of friends you play with, but it'd never be like, oh, Matt, do you want to come round after school and we can play video games all night? It'd be kind of a bit of a odd thing to suggest. Whereas now I look at younger relatives who are 12, 13, and they're all watching Minecraft videos. They're all saying, oh, let's go play some FIFA or something like that. It's become a lot more culturally acceptable and also socially normal to engage in video games. And that's only expanding. Mobile phones was another big moment where smartphones suddenly opened up gaming outside of your norm. Even in esports, the general demographic is really interesting. If you ask someone who doesn't know much about the space, picture someone who's an esports fan, a big gamer, and I know from experience that the image they've got in their head is someone who's not the most active. They're living in their parents' basement drinking Red Bull and whatever else. But that's not the demographic. All the research and data shows that the average gaming fan is kind of your 18 to 35-year-old. They're college educated or university educated for people in the UK, and they are in STEM fields. They're high earners. They're high disposable income. So as a group, they're very active. They're employed. They're homeowners. They are engaged in sporting activity and other competition as well. And that's an overlap which the general stereotypes around the gaming audience wouldn't necessarily be. There was an interesting piece as well from Yuki, which is the UK Interactive Entertainment Organisation, a couple of months ago, where their research in the UK found the average gamer in the UK is a 41-year-old woman.
There you go.
And that's when you factor in things like mobile games, your Candy Crushes, your consoles, all of these other things, which is very different to what maybe if you go back even 10 years, what people thought the average gamer was. So in terms of esports and how this is going to just keep growing is you've got your traditional esports, the hardcore games like your League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike and things like that. But we're seeing second wave now where there's competitive games around FIFA, NBA, the traditional sports titles. You've got over in the States, the Philadelphia 76ers last year purchased a big esports team Dignitas. And it's a big part of their strategy is evolving into esports there. There's been various football clubs in Europe who've invested into esports teams. The NBA is doing a lot. So just across the board, traditional sports are getting more engaged in esports because they see it's a way to access new audiences and also expand the way they engage with those audiences as well. And that's really exciting. And I think it's gonna continue. Another really good example, not quite as mainstream, but the game Hearthstone. It's a card game by Blizzard, and they launched it as a bit of a pet product, but because of the format of the game, it works on mobile. So lots and lots of people play it on their phones and things like that. And that's quite a competitive title. So already you're opening up games which to audiences that they wouldn't necessarily access. And what we aim to do as a company is also create gaming video content and distribute gaming video content to audiences that maybe haven't already accessed it.
Great. That's awesome. I want to know what you're playing at the moment as well. When you get a bit of time, I know you're a busy guy. When you get a bit of a second, what do you like to play?
So I've changed a lot. I used to play StarCraft 2 really, really quite hardcore. Back in the days before real life hit too hard. I don't have enough time. I'm unfortunately, my time is for gaming is usually spent hating myself because it's like riding a bike or like a sport. If you haven't trained for a while, and by a while I mean weeks to months, and then you get back in, you know what you're meant to be doing, but your body just doesn't want to do it. So you know how bad you are. So I've started playing some more games that are more basically single player game sort of thing, but recently PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. Right. That's an indie game. It was a small studio launched it. It was in alpha and is still in alpha stage, but they released it to the public, and that's recently become the most played game on Steam, which is a digital marketplace for PC games. By far, Microsoft bought the exclusive rights for it on console for Xbox. And the last I saw, they raised something like they've already sold $100 million worth of copies of this game. Wow. And that's one of these success stories where gaming not only limited to the big AAA titles. And I've been playing a lot of that. It's a great game.
What's it about?
Basically, imagine Hunger Games, but with guns.
Oh, yes.
So you just get dropped in the middle of this big island. You have to find anything and 100 other people, and the last person alive wins.
That sounds so sick.
There's loads of video content around it. I'd suggest watching it. I was late to the party because I just hadn't had time to give it a go, and I got slightly addicted to it because God, it's stressful. It's not like your Call of Duty where you run around and respawn. You have one life per game, and you've got to be the last person, and so you're there like hiding in buildings, hoping you're not going to find anyone else, and it's stressful. But
Good
it's
practice for the zombie apocalypse.
Exactly.
Great practice. Well, thank you very much for spending some time talking about Ding It TV and everything else that's going on around it, and just basically about esports, because I feel like there's a lot of people that generically are like, oh yeah, it's a great thing, but you've managed to kind of uncover the whys and wheres and hows, and I feel much more informed. I'm sure our listener feels much more informed about what's going on in the world. And make sure you check out dingit.tv. It's a great platform. Who knows, How to Kill It Now might have some stuff on there soon if we keep our F's and Jeffs to a minimum. Who knows? But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If people want to find out more about you and what you do, where can we find more of you, Adam?
Best place is probably on Twitter. I still keep my old gaming content creator ongoing, at Maddles91.
Cool, at Maddles91. Make sure you check it out. This has been How to Kill an Hour. As usual, there's plenty of way to kill some time out there. Thank you for killing some time with us.
Thank you very much.